Welcome to our cake replay session, Planning with Purpose, Standards-Driven Repertoire Selection. We're so excited to replay this for our PD catalog with you. My name is Brandon Rader. I am the Music and Theater Arts Consultant at the Department of Public Instruction, and our team includes the Dance and Visual Arts Consultant, Dr. Laura Stotterman, and we are led by Dr. Lori Major Carlin, a former theater arts teacher, and she is the section chief for both social studies and arts education. I'd like to welcome Christy White and Johnathan Hamiel to our webinar today, and I'm going to let them take it from here and lead you through this amazing replay session.
All right, so our first slide that's coming up has our learning objectives for today. We're going to analyze and apply the North Carolina Music Education Standards from 2025 to talk about intentional and standards first selection of ensemble and general music repertoire. We're going to talk about using and customizing the provided planning tools so that you can align instructional goals with your repertoire. And we're going to test and refine some repertoire plans by applying the tools, and you'll see how they work in a real classroom or with ensemble pieces. The next slide just has some of the standards that this session will address, so you can get a good look at those. And then we have a little welcome activity for you. So on your guide, would you please think about the first things that you think about or look for when you get a new piece of music? I think I realized we got ahead of ourselves, Brandon, because the reflection journal's on the next slide.
Oh, okay.
I just realized. But Johnathan put in the chat, the first thing he thinks about is the range. The first thing I think about when I get a new piece of music is I like to take a good look at the melody and see if it has accidentals.
I like to know the composer and the time period because I want to know how to approach the piece stylistically, but also I think that's often baked in for me based on which ensemble I'm in. So probably like key is so important. Playing an E versus playing an E flat is so different on the piano. So
I will tell you this too. Normally with some of my sections who are challenged the most, I'm looking at the range, but I'm also looking at rhythmic difficulty. So if let's say for instance I have a trombone section that might not be where I would like them to be at the moment, I'm going straight to that score and looking straight at that trombone section and making sure that, okay, there's not a whole lot of moving parts so that I can challenge them, but I can also push them and it's not going to like drive me crazy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. So this is a link to the reflection journal. Since you'll be watching this in the PD catalog, you need to go in and create a forced copy of the reflection journal and be prepared to write on it because you'll need to turn it in at the end to receive your CEU credit.
Thank you, Christy. Now, the whole question of this tool is why this, why now, why these standards, what's going on? Well, the previous standard update was in 2010. And it's like, yikes, wait a minute. I think standards, I'm not a DPI consultant, but I do think that standards are supposed to be updated every 5 to 8 years, give or take. But, 2010, that was a long time. I will also tell you that after the pandemic, we all needed a refresher. We all needed an update because when we were different educators, the students were different students when we went in versus when we came out. And no one is willing to accept that a lot of times. We did, all of us kind of went through some type of trauma, and we need to address that. And so with these standards, I'm really happy because it was an update. It was an update that was very much needed. Our interests had shift, and so our standards had to shift as well. Now, another thing is the current standards align with the national standards. And this is exceptionally beneficial for schools and school districts that have high transplant rates. Like, I'm here in Chapel Hill, so I can tell you a lot of our teachers, a lot of our students come from another state, or our teachers come from another state, or they are leaving this place and go to another state. But now that we are nationally aligned, once they come into Chapel Hill or leave Chapel Hill, that process is a lot easier when it comes to teaching and learning and lesson planning. Also, we would like to, it encourages more collaboration with arts disciplines. So for instance, we have connect, we have create, we have present, we have respond. We don't have to sit down and say, well, my musical contextual relevancy is just like you're this and just like you're that. No, it's right here. When we do this, when we collaborate, we're going to collaborate in the connect strand, or we're going to collaborate with the connect, the create, and the present strand. And along with that, it's also really good and beneficial to aid our administrators with providing a more valid and consistent teacher evaluation process. I know here in Chapel Hill, a lot of our administrators love that they only have to deal with 4 standards versus trying to look for the music standards, then the dance standards, then the visual art standards, then the theater art standard. They know that when they see the connect, when they see the create, when they see the present, when they see the respond, that it's so funny because they're actually starting to pay more attention to the art standard, which is what we want. And, because there's only 4 of them, so it's really cool. Now, if you could change it. So once again, we're talking about why this, why now, continue. And I remember Brandon and Laura talking about this in one of their so many webinars. It's great. But what do artists do? At the end of the day, what do artists do? When we're talking about these standards and creating standards, what do artists do? One, we connect. We connect with the past, present, and future. We connect with societies. We connect with cultures. We connect with the audience and one another. We connect where the student is connecting with the audience, the student is connecting with the director, so forth and so on. Next, we create. We develop new artistic ideas alone and in small groups. We could talk about creating a visual masterpiece, or we could talk about creating maybe a composition. Whatever the case, we are creating and we present. The present strand is basically the performance and the presenting and the concerts and what we're producing. And the response is the analyzation and the evaluation. And how do I produce the feedback for the kids to make sure that they understand? All right, let's talk about a little bit of taxonomies. All right. The 2010 standards were required to use only revised Bloom's taxonomy verbs. Feedback from the field recommended that the 2024 standards use research-based taxonomies more appropriate to the performance-based nature of arts education. All right, I just read that to you. Here's what it really is. So we have 3 different normally in the 2010 standards, we did the Blooms. All right. We all know that. We're familiar with that. And this is something really cool that I enjoy because I didn't know that there were more than one taxonomy. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little vulnerable right there, but I mean, seriously. So I heard about the Dave's Atkinson taxonomy, and we've added, that's a part of our new standards as well. And that's dealing with that psychomotor domain, which focuses on the physical movement. It focuses on coordination, the use of motor skills, and like I said before, physical movement. Then we got the Krathwohl taxonomy, and the Krathwohl focuses on the affective domain. All right, that's the affective domain, and it focuses on feelings and attitude and values and emotions. And then, of course, we have the Bloom's taxonomy, which is the cognitive domain, which focuses on intellectual skills related to thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. And all of these taxonomies are present in the arts. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this. And that quote right there to your left, I think it's really cool. It isn't enough to have knowledge or arts content or history. We develop skills and express attitudes about the arts as well. All right. Now, this is a pretty cool little activity. When you're doing this, or when you're listening to this at your leisure, get it when you get a chance, click on that link and put what is your favorite piece of music to conduct or teach. Some folks have already put that up there. This is from the CAEC conference, but what is your favorite piece of music to conduct or teach? Put that in the Padlet. And you can change the color with the 3 dots in the corner. While you're looking at that, I will tell you my favorite piece, if you can see it, is the Holt's Second Suite for military band in F major. I will tell you, if I'm planning a concert and I have about 5 to 10 minutes left in that concert, I'm pulling it out every time. I know everything. I know almost everything about the Holtz. It's one of my favorite pieces. I know exactly where I need to be. I know I know exactly where I need to be at a certain time. I know that piece inside and out. All right. Now, the activator is getting you. So several times we address that favorite piece of music. We know that whether it's fall, whether it's Christmas, whether it's spring, whether it's concert band time or orchestra time or jazz band time or chorus time, whatever it may be. But then I would add the standards later, and I would pick me a piece, and then I would add some standards later when I was being observed. The activator now is getting you to change your mindset. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to change your mindset. And we're about to do this shortly when it comes to selecting literature for your ensemble to perform. When you put the score back in the folder, and then I don't know if you do this, but once again, this is something that I do. When you put the score back in the folder, now you can also place this guide that we're about to shortly show you and talk you through, because you already know what the standards of the piece is, and you can use this for whether it's an evaluation, or you can use this for MPA season, whatever the case may be. So Christy, if you would.
I will. I was kind of thinking about when we talk about stuffing those standards in, like we were talking about our favorite song, and I was thinking one of my favorite songs to teach to my kids used to be Waltzing with Bears. It was from the third grade textbook. And then I was thinking, okay, like that's my favorite song. What if I wanted to teach it to every grade level? And how inappropriate that would be if I was trying to teach it to kindergartners, like 3, 4 and kindergartners. That would be really hard to explain. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, is that making sure that the repertoire that we teach meets the developmental needs of the students and also meets what they need from it. So we are talking about third grade literature. I did not pull out Waltzing with Bears today because it is super, super long. But we are going to take a look at the third grade literature guide for all you general music folks who are in the elementary area, and just kind of get a look at how it works. The first page has the relevant standards that are related to the literature. And then when we move down into the next page, you can see that you've got a series of check boxes. So when we're talking about CN 1.1 in third grade, the focus is on local heritage. So all those check boxes there have to do with, is the music about local culture, local tradition? When you look at 2.2, we're talking about innovative technologies, whether it's a current technology or is it historically innovative, which means it might not be a computer. It might be a tape deck. That was historically innovative back in the day. It might be a harpsichord. That was innovative back in the day, right? 2.1, we're talking about arranging by changing elements of songs. 2.2, third grade focuses on fair use. In PR 1.1, we're talking about whether they can improve based on feedback. PR 1.2 talks about the rhythms, the pitches, and the meter that are specific to third grade. 1.3, third graders are focusing on partner songs. And then PR 1.4 also lines up with RE 1.1. They're asked to either identify or perform the relevant tempos, articulation, form, or dynamics. So we're looking for those things in the song. RE 1.2 talks about inferring meaning. Does the song tell a story? Does it have a narrative? Is it programmatic? RE 1.3 looks at the timbre of the music. RE 2.1 talks about opportunities to contrast with other works of music. And RE 2.2 talks about opportunities to provide feedback. So we're going to take a look at a song on the next slide. Oh, I forgot about the little list at the bottom. I'm sorry. Keep going, Brandon. Thank you. At the bottom, there's a little matrix with check boxes that lets you check off and put your songs there. So you can see there's an example in there for you where you can see, you can say, oh, yes, it perfectly aligns. It kind of aligns, or nope, not this piece. Maybe another piece will complement this one to make sure we get everything met. Okay, so on the next slide, we have another one of the songs that I like to use from the third grade book that I used in my classroom. It was a Silver Burdette Making Music book. And it has the song Ida Red. And just in case you never heard it before, I did put a couple of links for some YouTube videos down there. So
you're not going to sing it for us?
Oh, you want me to sing it? Well, I do not have perfect pitch, so I can't tell you what key this might be, but down the road and across the creek, can't get a letter but once a week. Ida red, Ida blue, I got stuck on Ida too. There you go. Yeah. So, this was one of my favorite songs to work with third grade. It took them a little second to get adjusted to it. It's not like what they listen to all the time. But what I would look for is, how does this match up to what they're supposed to learn in third grade? And in general music, the textbooks will help out with that a lot, because you can look in the index and see whether it has the pitches or the rhythms that you are currently working on. But if we take a look at this song, and I kind of go through that little checklist, I'm going to say, okay, local culture. Well, it says in the corner, this is a folk song from Kentucky. So not really local culture. I could maybe make a stretch and say, okay, folk music from Kentucky is bluegrassy, might have a banjo. We have banjos in North Carolina, but not really a match. As far as technology goes, definitely not current technology, although at some point it was an innovation to use songs for entertainment and for moving around. Again, not a perfect match here though. When we talk about CR 2.1 though, could we arrange this piece? Could the students arrange it by making a few simple changes? Absolutely. We could change the lyrics, we could change the dynamics, we could change the tempo, and it would be a small change that would make this piece different and make it our own. CR 2.2, it does talk about, it is perfectly applicable for fair use. It's public domain because it's a folk song. Pitch, and this is why I always taught it in the third grade. It was a good start for pentatonic, do, re, mi, so, la. That's exactly what it is. We could sing it, we could play it on the xylophone, all of those things. Rhythm, PR 1.2, asks for, quarters and eighths and all those things, and it has beamed eighths and sixteenths together, which is not an exact match, but it does have some of the rhythms that we cover in third grade. Meter is in 2/4, so that gets a check. Partner songs from PR 1.3, it does not have a partner song that I know of, but we could write one and make our own partner song, I suppose, but it's not one. Musical concepts, PR 1.4, which is partnered with RE 1.1. We could talk about form if we wanted to, add some ostinatos or interludes, and then you can make yourself a ABA kind of thing. We could talk about phrasing. All of those kinds of things would build into form. Story and narrative in RE 1.2. I always told my students that this did tell a little story about somebody who liked somebody else and was trying to send a letter, but the person lived a long way away. And can you imagine if you had to wait all this time to get your mail, that kind of thing. Timbres, we could talk about voices versus instruments, especially with those videos that are down in the corner. There's an auto harp down there and a guitar. Reference and meaning, preference, your preference for your song, RE 2.1. You could talk about the cultural value and meaning it had at the time. How do we feel about it? How do we think other people might feel when they're listening to this music? And then feedback for PR 1.1 and RE 2.2 could definitely be woven into the process. We would sometimes get out our barred instruments to play pentatonic as it was in the song, and that usually required a good bit of feedback and sharing with one another to make sure that we got it right. So that's kind of an example of how you take a piece at the elementary level and make sure that you have everything and that it aligns by using that literature alignment guide. And I'm going to let Johnathan here do something that's a little more complicated than third grade.
Thank you. Thank you. So very much similar to what Christy was talking about. We still have our rules, okay? The literature evaluation, how to use this guide. And it's very simple. Just read through that. You got the review, you got to use the evaluation worksheet, you got the reference, and you got the share and the adapt. One thing that I think about when I'm thinking about this, the evaluation worksheet, is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Person. One of those habits was begin with the end in mind. You know what I mean? And so we're just kind of working backwards. So I'm starting with, what do I need students to experience and express and understand? That's something that Christy mentioned earlier, and choose literature that makes those goals possible. Now, in the secondary, we do have some workbooks, but for the most part, we use a lot of pieces of music. And for the piece of music that I have in the presentation is Moscow 1941. Okay. I got it right here. It's right there as well. And, everybody has a little piece of music, right? Everybody has a score, a band score, just right there, just, at your fingertips. So what I'll do, I'll put the title of the work, and it's very much like your score study. So just add this to your score study. So I'm putting the title of the work, I'm putting the arranger, Ball Mages, Moscow 1941. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the accuracy and precision, section 1, range and key. So that's PR 1.5, comfortable range, appropriate key signatures. Now, here's the cool thing about this tool that I like. So you got band, and normally in middle school, band is from 1 to 3 flats, but we also know that orchestra works on the flats, on the sharp side. So that's really cool as well. It already has that here. So you can just click band. All right, boom, 1 to 3 flats. This one is in the key of B flat. So that checks out. All right. If you go down to the rhythmic meter, what I'll do is I'll kind of look through. All right, well, let's see. Novice level, you got rhythm values, you got whole notes, half notes, whatever. I'm going to go through and look through the score and see what we have. Do we have syncopated rhythms? Yes, we do. So I'm going to click yes for that. Do we have familiar meters like 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4? Yes, we do. This is in 4/4. So I'm looking at the scale patterns. We have a number of scale patterns that's going through this. I'm looking at 14 as scale patterns going up and down. It's in B. It says between major concert or B flat or E flat, for example. So opportunities to play simple scales. Yes. And not only simple scales, but variations of the scale too, which is really cool. reading and interpret music and symbols. We got andante. All of that's right there. If you look at the very beginning, you got andante, you got allegro, you got retardando, you got all of the things that's possessed. So what I'm doing while I'm studying my score, I'm looking at the evaluation worksheet and I'm just checking off. All right. I'm checking off. And what I would do is I would let this live in my score, or I would let this live with my music as well. And I'm not going to go into like a whole lot of depth because Christy did a really good job of that. But I just add it to my score study. And, it's very self-explanatory. And here's one thing that I was asking Brandon about. Well, what happens if I do not cover every standard with one piece? Guess what? That's okay. That's okay. You're not going to just play one piece on a concert. You will have another piece of music that will probably cover those things. And I will also tell you this: how many times have we looked or have we been in an evaluation? And I know sometimes I have, when I'm up there, I'm teaching and I'm conducting, and then the next thing you know, I get an unannounced evaluation, and then my principal comes in. I'm like, oh crap, I got to find a way to put these standards with but now you don't have to do that because you've already done it and it's right here. So it's just saved you a step, guys. So this is what it's really cool. So I would encourage you to use that.
I'm going to jump in just for a second because somebody asked me about this at NCMEA. The incomparable James Doherty challenged me to make sure that these forms are aligned to the MPA rubrics. So you'll notice that the structure of the VIM documents is different than the structure of the general music. And that's because accuracy and precision, and then musicality and interpretation and musical context are some of the bins from the MPA rubrics. And so we really tried to make sure that the language within this was aligned to the MPA rubric as well, so that you don't have to do it twice. So like Johnathan said, it's just folded into the score study.
Absolutely. And what I can see, and I didn't tell them about this, but what I could see in the future is educators sharing this tool with their pieces. So for instance, if I have Moscow 1941 and I'm like, well, you know what? So-and-so needs to borrow Moscow in 1941. All right, sure. But hey, you know what? Let me let you borrow my evaluation worksheet too. And so you can already have that as well. And then what I see in the future is music educators communicating and also kind of like collaborating, saying, well, you know what? I see what you have done with this worksheet, with this evaluation tool worksheet, but I got another part from adding this element or that element, and you're really PLCing and collaborating, and I think that would be really cool. I could see a lot of folks doing that. So basically, we're collaborating and we're discussing. So I think that's really cool. And like I said before, just add it on to your score study. All right. So with our personal reflection during this time, what you've heard so far, what you need to put down: what I used to think and what do I think now. And you can either pause it or you can do it. We're going to give you a little bit of time. I used to think what? What did you used to think about arranging? No, I'm sorry, not arranging. About score study, about selecting a piece of music and how it aligns to the standards versus what do you think now? And that's really important. While you're thinking about that, it's really important what Brandon said about the language has been aligned to the North Carolina Music Performance, the MPA rubrics. That's really important for our band, orchestra, chorus folks, and secondary. And so this is not a one more thing you have to do. This is kind of like, this is used as a tool to assist and to help you. And yep.
Mhm.
All right, next slide. It is your turn. Yay, to explore and evaluate. Yay, with the spirit fingers. Use the link on the next slide to practice using the appropriate evaluation tool. Use these prompt questions to help you. What objectives are clearly supported? What needs scaffolding? What opportunities could be missed? All right. And so take 5 to 10 minutes on your own, and all you basically need to do is click one, so if you're elementary, then click elementary, of course. If you're choral, click choral. If you're band, click band, so forth and so on. And also you will see the links of the evaluation tools at the bottom. Click whichever one that you're going to you have novice, you got developing, you got fourth grade. So the elementary is fourth grade. Am I right, Christy? All right. The choral, band, and orchestra is the VIM, novice, and developing. So I would click those. Tempest is definitely novice. Choral is developing, and orchestra is novice.
You can see we put that cute little 10-minute timer in there, but you're welcome to spend as much time as you like if it's more than 10 minutes, since you're doing this on your own time. So these are some things that we want you to think about now that you've taken some time to kind of look at the tool, experience it, try it out for yourself, and just think about what shifted in your thinking, and where this tool could help you the most. How could it support collaboration? How could it support advocacy? I think Johnathan gave you a few hints about how that could happen when he was talking just a few minutes ago, about how you can really use this tool. The point is not to be one more thing that you have to do. The point is to help you do your job in the best way possible.
Yep. And so now we will have our final thoughts. And I want your final thoughts as well. I would like for you to pause this and just think, what are my final thoughts as I'm going and learning something new? I'm going to learn this new tool, and how am I going to implement it? And how is it going to change my teaching? How is it going to change my approach to teaching? And I'll tell you what it's done for me. For me, this tool really aids in my vertical alignment. And what I mean by that is, especially from middle school to high school, I was a high school band director. And when I was a younger director, I noticed that some of my former students, they would not continue their musical journey once they left my class. And I mean, because we did all the things. We had great performances. We had great assessments. We had wonderful concert seasons. But, now as I'm a little bit more reflective, I wonder, did they learn the concepts of the item that they were supposed to learn, or just a piece of music? Because I was how a lot of folks think about band directors, that we're going to force you to play that piece of music. You're going to play that piece of music, and I could do that really well. But my issue is, if that concept was not applicable, and it didn't relate, and they couldn't carry that and apply it to other pieces of music, did I really teach them? Did I really? So now that I have these standards and I'm showing these standards, it makes me really hone in a little bit more and focus on making sure that I am teaching these things and these concepts that the students can take with them to become lifelong learners of music, or lifelong lovers of music. And so that's something that it really helped me when I started looking at this piece. I'm like, gosh, I wish that I'd have had this worksheet or this tool 10, 15 years ago when I was in the classroom, because it would have helped me to make sure that those students really knew the concepts of what I was trying to do, instead of just having a really great performance, and were they applying it to other pieces of music. So that's my why. What about you, Christy?
My why is a little bit different. At the elementary level, I think one of the biggest challenges is that you typically only see your kids once a week, depending on the schools. Sometimes it's twice, sometimes it's every other week. And so it can be really difficult to think about, well, how am I going to get all these standards taught? If I'm only going to see them once a week, how am I going to get it all done? Um, and so for me, choosing your rep this way, being so intentional about choosing your songs and seeing how many standards you can approach with one piece helps you get everything that the students need before they get to the next level. Because you got to think about, oh, I've got concert season and I'm going to spend a lot of time on these present strands or these present standards. How am I going to fit everything else in? And this really helps you do that and be intentional about it. The other thing that it would be a why for me is that it is going to make sure it's going to keep you honest and make sure that you really are teaching everything that you need to teach. For me, one of my challenges, I'll put it that way, is improvisation. That's something that I really struggle with. I didn't grow up in the jazz world. I grew up reading music, not improvising at all, and I didn't really learn by ear. And so teaching those standards has always been more difficult for me. And so by having this tool in front of you and seeing what exactly can I do to improvise with each piece of music, that would make sure that I taught that standard. And I realize everybody's struggle is different. So whatever it is that you struggle to teach, using this can help you make sure that you are indeed teaching that thing. So that's my why.
And I will tell you this, if you're interested in sharing your why with us, you can go to the next slide. If you're interested in sharing your why with us, I would love to hear it. I always enjoy hearing your why. Yeah. Especially when we got our music educators all in one room. I think it's great. I love to hear why we do the things that we do, why we teach, why are we going to use this tool? What about this tool what about this tool that you like? What is something that could be better? I don't think it could be, I think it's pretty good, so because I know how Brandon is, and Brandon is a person, he's always thinking growing, so if there's something that can be improved, then let us know that too. Am I right, Brandon? I hope I'm right.
Absolutely. Somebody a youngin came up to me at the end of my session where we talked about this and about doing all the standards in one rehearsal. And he said, "Will there be lists?" And I said, the more we get people to use these tools, the more we're going to be able to just, say, hey, these are all the songs. And even the actual composers and publishers, and so that there are 1.5 million different versions of Shenandoah. So like these ones are perfect for novice, these ones are perfect for developing, whatever it might be. And I could really see an amazing repository growing so that we don't even have to continue to do this individually. But like you said, this is amazing PLC work. If every single week people can come together and say, like, or the homework is to bring one first grade song or to bring one second grade song. And then across the year, you've already built through all sixth grade, elementary grade levels or whatever it is, because there are several teachers who are going to bring different things. And so this is it's a really strong way, I think, to build a literature-centered classroom, which is awesome and so much fun. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We hope you've enjoyed this CAEC replay and that you can submit your CEU or submit your reflection journal for CEUs, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much and have a great day.